Hey everyone, this is Sky, and thank you so much for coming over to check out this video today. I am talking about September of 2020 and some of the general intuitive insights that I am getting about this oncoming month. I'm so happy to be back with you guys today after my brief hiatus. I am really looking forward to injecting some new and exciting content for the rest of 2020 as we are going to be powering through 2020. We've only got 4 more months. We are going straight in to the 4th quarter of this crazy year now, and yes, I would say that we have not seen anything yet, to put it lightly. I think that 2020 is going to go out with a bang. I think that this month and the oncoming months of this calendar year will test us more and more every single day as to the wherewithal that we have developed over the last 4 or 5 years. What an important and imperative month to start to develop a core strength, to develop a wherewithal, to develop a certain status where you know that you are not going to be pulled down by small things or things that are kind of really outside of yourself. As surprisingly, this feels to me to be one of the most self-focused months of this year. So before we get too deep into it, everyone, be sure to hit the subscribe button if you are new to the channel or if you've been checking back for a while. And if you are subscribed, make sure that you guys hit the bell icon and enable all notifications so that you can see when I post new content. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon, so if you would like to get updates from the channel and to also see September general readings early, ad-free, as well as with extended counterparts, you can check the Patreon link below. Okay, so let's talk about September, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I feel like the energy is wonderful. I'm so happy to share this space with you all. So first and foremost, I will say that we enter September quite differently than we exit it, is as best as I can really put this together. There are drastic changes for some people in this month. A drastic change to the structure of a business, a drastic change to a family structure, the introduction of a new relationship, or the dissolving of an old relationship. We are in the mutable sign of Virgo as we enter this month, and we leave it in the cardinal sign of Libra. I'm going to talk mostly about the Virgo side of it for this video, but we will touch a bit on the Libra side of it as well. So we do have grand Earth trines coming in this month. We have Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, not much longer. We have Uranus and Taurus, and we will have the Sun as well as inner planets moving toward Virgo. So we had this kind of crazy experience at the end of August of a weird grand fire trine that would have ignited us in a very different way than we were accustomed to. And now as we move into September, this moves back into the Earth element, and we have a much more natural and appropriate sense of things falling into place now as compared to August. So if you're coming out of August with a worry or a fear or a discrepancy of some kind, as is quite likely for most people, I do think that September really can be your remedy, and I do think that this month will really sort of guide you through a difficult process. It does feel like a wonderfully nurturing month for some people, a wonderfully guiding and intuitive and expansive month when it comes to the stability and the solidarity that you experience in your own life. But it is not a month for stagnation in any way, shape, or form. Again, I feel so strongly that we leave September differently than we enter it. And this is like probably, I mean, it's not a very specific message, I know, but I think it's just really important to affirm this for those of us who feel like we are not quite where we want to be, for those of us who feel like we need a shift in our lives, for those of us who feel like we are not satisfied with the current continuance of events in our lives. This is the time to make the change. One of the last times this year, probably. I mean, Scorpio season might introduce the smallest amount of transformative capacity, but a Scorpio energy is not really operating through transformation right now. It's much more sitting with the natural flow of events than it is trying to elicit a change. this year. So that's important to know, that Scorpio season is not going to be quite as highly transformative at a personal and emotional level as we might expect it to be. So here in Virgo season, the mutable energy is what we really want to latch onto if we need to see a change for ourselves. So yeah, one of the best times this year to change, again, your business structure or your family dynamics or your relationship status or your appearance or your schedule or routine. Any changes that need to be made, do yourself a favor and do it now and as early as possible in this month. Something that I'm also feeling really strongly is that most of us need to completely revamp the way that we are giving and receiving in our lives. I'm feeling major Six of Pentacles vibes for those of you who are tarot people coming up in this month. We have a very strong need to reconsider how we give and take energy. Because I'm kind of feeling like there's just no denial this month when it comes to difficult energetic connections with others. There's no way to convince ourselves that this could be healthy if it's not. There's no way to convince ourselves that this is a problem if it's not. And I think that the universe is really going to give us a great mirror to figure and work this all out. So, but that's not super easy at all, okay? Because what I do feel is that if you're giving an inch the wrong direction, it's very easy to be like dominated or domineered. Like you give, it's not even just like giving an inch and someone taking a mile. I'm talking like giving the smallest amount in the wrong direction is like the invitation to have like a really weird type of self-fulfilling prophecy or like weird connections in weird places, you know, finding that your sectors of life, we touched on this just a touch over the last few months, but that your sectors of life are like merging in weird ways. So you're finding the answers to your work crisis in your dating life, or you're finding the questions about your health in your, you know, in the friendships that you're having with other people. That was really natural a few years ago, but as I've talked about coming into this year, it's really important that our sectors of our lives, our health, our money, our relationships, all these different things, that they stay as separate from one another as possible, because it's not really the time where you heal your financial problems through a relationship, or you heal your fatigue through I don't know, through forcing yourself to work a longer shift and just trying to gain that endurance. If we have like a problem with fatigue, we have to focus on the fatigue. If we have a problem with money, we have to focus on the money. It's a very direct time, and this is really beautiful. We've had a much more roundabout, ritualistic time over the past even a few years, but now we can actually get much more direct with things, and we can actually solve things in a much more direct way. But some of us are kind of like, well, I was just starting to figure out how to solve things in a very roundabout way in my life, and I don't know if I want things to be so direct, you know? It's a very honest time this month. You can find an amount of honesty that you did not know was present if you would like to. Very easy it is this month to know how your purpose is manifested, instead of asking, okay, is it this career? Is it this position? Is it this relationship? Is it, you know, this location? You can now just directly say, okay, I'm going to embody my purpose. And it's really easy, and it kind of manifests itself into reality without too many roundabout thoughts, okay? But I do feel like still continuing with the idea of revamping how we are giving or taking in our lives, how we are energizing our space. I think that we have to start to get much more fond of ourselves now. I think that we have to really understand what it means to hold space for somebody who is rat-like, you know. Again, yeah, we're in the year of the rat, you know, lots of magnifying glasses out everywhere. People are really looking into each other, and Virgo season might just be the apex or the pinnacle of it, where you have to actually be a little bit careful. I would advise caution in people that you have no context with. So especially those of you who are single and trying to date, it's a bad time for it in general, because the people that we have no context or connotation with right now are likely to pilfer or to look through or rummage through our things. So you might see, yeah, that people are really looking into who you are or what you are, and there's not so much a natural flow of events, but it's a very artificial type of sort of engineered relationship creation right now. So I would, if you're single right now, it's for a reason, okay? If you're single right now, there's probably a lot that you have to learn on your own accord, and the lessons are not really coming vicariously through relationships right now. Unless you're in a long-term relationship, unless you're in a marriage, unless it's contextual, in which case, yes, this September can really start to set the record straight. We can really know, okay, this is the future of this relationship. This is what I can give to this relationship. This is what I can't give to this relationship. This is what I should expect from this relationship. This is what I should not expect from this relationship. By now, people have really fostered their appearance in the eyes of other people. People are how they seem now. There's no need to pilfer through it or to look through all of those experiences to try to identify somebody now, because people are who they are. Can you identify yourself, though? Can you identify what you would like to do? Can you identify the new growing aspects of your own personality? Yes, we are in grand earth trines, which means there is inevitable growth this month. There is inevitable bearing of new fruit. And what I always like to also say with Virgo season is it's a lot about pruning as well. For any of you who garden or who have grown plants or trees or anything, you would know that it has to die sometimes as well. There is a growth and a death. There's a growth and a death. It's seasonal. And sometimes even a very good gardener can come out with the shears and cut off the dead weight and make the plant that much stronger. So one of the most magical things for September of 2020, as early as possible, is to start chopping off this dead weight. Now we have to be careful as well, because sometimes a gardener who is not too intuitive or in touch with their plants will prune off the wrong parts and do more harm than good. So this is why we have been really focusing on our health this entire year. This is why we've really been focusing on getting things in order and getting things clear, so that we can now have the green thumb, essentially, or the sixth sense, to know what has to be shaken, what needs to be let go of now, so that we can have the actual full potential of our own growth, so that we can tap into the true full potential of our own growth cycles, which are really going to amp up starting now and until Capricorn season, like amping up to the point that we can have such a towering growth by December and January that we cannot really recognize the view as it used to be. As you ascend and go higher and higher, you see more, you encompass and encapsulate more, and the view from very high up is very different from the view from beneath. So something that I would also urge against during this time is getting too attached to anything here and now. For those of you who are a little bit dissociated or who are a little bit detached from expectations, good on you. Okay, you are ahead of the trend if you can detach and not be too concerned about the presence of certain people in your life, about the future or present of certain career paths or desires. If you can kind of detach from that, you will be ahead of the curve, because we will learn that inevitably, a healthy sense of detachment over the next few years as things become much more Aquarian. Okay, Capricorn is not a detached sign, so we've really learned what an unhealthy attachment was throughout this triple retrograde conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto. And we will touch more on that in this video too, as I'm just talking about intuitive messages now, and I will go into the more specific astrology messages later in the video. But we are truly understanding what it means to healthily attach and unhealthily attach. And some of us can only detach, in 2021. There's really no such thing as any attachment for some of us by then, if we can only know attachment now. So learning about healthy attachment is one of the best things for this month as well. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about adaptability right now in the video because I have been getting a lot of questions about adaptability. Yes, Virgo is a very adaptable sign. It is mutable. All the mutable signs are adaptable. So we all do need to adapt to something by September 20th. For 99% of us, it's like a new routine. I'm feeling collectively that there is a major crisis with time management and routine, a major crisis for some people with sleeping cycles, with what they're eating during the day, with the time of day that they're eating, with the chemical structure of the body. There are crises there, and Virgo season always seeks to right that and correct that difficulty. So, and it's not usually too sudden, okay? There's a slow gain, there's a slow processed adaptation that we have in this month, and you just have to take it step by step, bit by bit, one foot in front of the other. You don't want to really hype yourself up or get too overwhelmed or over-encompassed by the thought, yes, by tomorrow I'm going to have this perfect routine, or by tomorrow I'm going to have lost that 10 pounds, or by tomorrow I'm going to have all of this, because that becomes like a mania for you, you know, that becomes crazy, okay, where we're like asking way too much of ourselves for a small amount of time. But the person who really does succeed this month is that person who can do it bit by bit. Okay, I'm going to have a bit less coffee today. I'm going to wake up 15 minutes earlier every day for the next 3 weeks, and by then I am in the biorhythm that I want to be in. I'm going to turn off my mind and allow myself to just be comfortable in my bed without worrying too much about the next day, or without getting too hyped up on the possibilities for the future once all of this, you know, quarantine and difficulties and craziness of 2020 is over. What will I be like? It's great and beautiful to be manifesting what you will be soon now, but what is even better is to just accept that this is like a comfortable time for a lot of people. Not for everybody, okay? Everybody's different. Some people are having a lot of, you know, activation right now, having to work a lot, having to be on like the edge of a experience. Like not everybody is just in like relaxation mode right now, but everybody does need to give that to themselves. It is like one of the maybe the last chances in this year to just have a certain amount of relaxation for a lot of people. And with that, yes, there is a responsibility to manage that time, to allow yourself health with that time. Okay, so many of us have about 1,000 different ideas to let go of this season, okay? And not the good ones. We're not talking about letting go of good ideas, but what we are talking about is letting go of self-fulfilling prophecies that are baseless, okay? Letting go of the wrong place at the wrong time mentality, only thinking about what you're going to manifest at 2 o'clock in the morning, only not being able to get up or not being able to motivate at 11 a.m. You know, there's the scattering of our events, of our routine, of our time is really important to see, okay? It's so important to see, which is actually the perfect segue into the astrology portion of this video. I'll get a little bit more specific and give you guys some dates. But yeah, time, okay, time. We will have Saturn going direct. We will have Jupiter going direct in Capricorn this month. Whoa. So Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is the ruler of time. We have had them retrograde, and Jupiter expands everything it is nearby. So we've had an expansion of a difficult mentality toward time management, and Virgo is all about routine, mundane time management as well. So do you guys get the gist of what this September is most likely all about? It is about the restructuring and the reorientation and the adaptation to a time management, to a time relationship that ultimately helps us to release the dead weight that we no longer need, and also adapt to that which is only prominently hopeful for the future. It is time to adapt here and now to what we know is good for us, to what we know has needed to happen for a long time, and to release on every single step of that journey. A lot of us have bills to pay. A lot of us have debts to pay off. A lot of us have things that we have to get done. Okay, this is not as much a time for relaxation as a lot would think. I'm talking about how important relaxation is during this September, but a lot of us have just like so much to do, you know, so much to do. So First things first, September 13th, Jupiter goes direct. We have 13 days entering into this month where the chaos of having Jupiter retrograde in its debilitated sign is still full in effect. I would hold back as much as possible during that time. I would only do the necessary. I would allow yourself to just accept the way that things are and not try to get too crazy, too mental with like how I can change my time, how I can, you know, also complain about something or make something out to be much worse than it is, or blame others for my own discrepancies or my own shortcomings. Not saying that everybody's doing that, but Jupiter, first of all, for this entire year, is debilitated in Capricorn. It takes Jupiter 12 years to go around the sun. So we have 1 year where Jupiter creates a fuss, and it creates a crisis, and it creates overreaction as well, and dramatization and theatricality, I'll call it, over certain things, and also financial crises and recessions and economic collapses and political instability. It happens every time Jupiter's in Capricorn, okay? I made a video last year in September of 2019 called The 2020 Recession. I'll link it below. And I'm like, wow, and at the time the economy was like, you know, surging. It was like huge explosions, bubbles, wow, Jupiter and Sag, you know? And I was able to really predict a lot of what has happened, you know, even when it comes to like health crisis and economic downfall. So I will link that below. You guys should go back and listen to it. It's fun to go back to that time and remember where we were at in like September 2019 and how we could kind of see some of these things coming on. But anyway, 13 more days in the beginning of September of just, you know, say you don't get the service you've paid for, or you don't receive the great service, or you are something inconvenient could happen. You know, it's been possible for this entire time of the retrograde, especially because when things go retrograde, they more intensely show their negative manifestations. So Jupiter debilitated, more intensely showing its manifestations, the most expansive, theatrical, arguably the most powerful planet, okay? In a certain way, there are different kinds of power, and all the outer planets have a certain type of power that they are particularly enveloped in. But Jupiter is definitely the most obvious planet right now, in my opinion. And once it goes direct on September 13th, things are really going to change. And this is one of the reasons why I'm talking about all of us exiting September differently than we entered it, because Jupiter and Saturn will both be direct. September 29th, Saturn goes direct. All right. Saturn is at home in Capricorn. It's actually helping a lot. And especially as it goes direct, it's really going to help a lot for us to understand our time, for us to reacclimate ourselves to what stability actually looks like, to what solidarity looks like, to what creative principles manifesting into the real tangible world looks like. So by the end of September, a lot of us are much more healthy, okay? And it will not be wasted health, okay? Because we're going to move into Libra season. That's going to reactivate this cardinal experience. And I think that it's really actually going to be a catalyst at the end of September and moving into October for our deep inner creative principles to be manifested in the best timely fashion, which for a lot of us does mean 2021. You know, 2020 is a year where we are not being egoically distracted. This is not a time of windfall for many people. And if it is a time of windfall, it's a begrudged windfall, or it's a, you know, it's a questioned experience of windfall, as we all need to take time back to analyze how we're giving and taking, how we're receiving, how we are giving back. But I don't want to distract us away from how much the paradigm is really shifting this month, and then it will shift again in January. September, October, and January are pretty strong paradigm shift times. And we have been living for months now with this triple retrograde conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto. I've been talking to a lot of people about this. I've been harping on and on and on about it, frankly, on this channel. This is not something that is frequent. You know, I was at a get-together the other night, and I was standing outside with a group of people at nighttime, and I was looking up at the sky, and I was like, you guys know that that's Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in the sky, and they're like, oh, is it? That's funny. And I'm like, yeah, this hasn't happened in 500 years. In fact, actually probably thousands of years. It's been 500 years since Saturn and Pluto were in Capricorn conjunct in that part of the sky. And who knows how long it's been since Jupiter was there as well. So and they've been, not just been there, but they've been retrograde and conjunct. And it's absolutely profound at an astrological level. And anyway, it's important to also know that even when Pluto and Saturn come together, just Pluto and Saturn, you don't even have to add Jupiter onto it, you have a near collapse of certain civilizations, and Jupiter's there as well, and it's retrograde. So just the fact that we're coming out of the retrograde portion as together as we are, and I know it's not great. You know, we have a lot of crises. We have obviously the pandemic. We have huge amounts of political unrest. We have a lot more problems than we would dare to even know about, actually, and a lot more threats than we would like to look at. But we are quite together given the circumstances as well. We are quite well wound. We are quite holding on quite strongly with a firm grip and not about to let go soon either. So it's like, on one hand, yes, we have even more issues and potential problems than we can actually realize right now. But at the same time, we could be a lot worse off than we are collectively. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, it could be better, could be worse. But could it, you know? But it's just really great, whether we're looking at this from the micro or macrocosmic lens, to understand that September comes and it goes, and we never have to be there again in our lives. Okay, we never have to go back to that point. We never have to experience that amount of turmoil, or that amount of ego complex, or that amount of painful relationship with time again. Yes, it will echo until probably like March of 2021, or even like 2025. Okay, a transit like this has a long-lasting effect. Arguably, we're still coming back from the effects of the one in the 1500s, you know, where we had the Protestant Reformation, which completely changed governance for centuries. It was the catalyst that basically ended monarchical systems. So we are still actually affected by the momentum of the previous Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn when it comes to how we are held as a collective, or how we are controlled as well. So that is still an impact. So we have to understand that this one will probably echo even further than that one. So yeah, maybe this has affected us for the next 1,000 years. That is possible. But when it comes to the brunt of it, we're walking out of that in September of 2020, and now it's just about the echoes. It's not about the presence or about the creation of new resounding moments. And individuals always have the choice of whether they want to engage these higher collective themes or not. There's a sort of, and this is hard to explain, and maybe it's another video for another time, but we all choose to engage trauma, okay, to a degree. Yeah, yes, this is very subconscious, and none of us ever say, yes, I want to have a bad time, or I want to really struggle in my life. It's never like a conscious desire. But when we're in alignment, when we're right, when we're in connection with our own selves and energy at large, we will always be ushered into a safe zone, or into a safety area, okay, regardless of what's going on. And then, yes, it's also true that some of us only ever find our true connection to ourselves, or our twin flame, or our significant other, in the brunt of nasty trauma, because we can't give it to ourselves unless we feel that every other sector is in question. We won't actually give ourselves what we've wanted, because humanity has developed this sense that deprivation and lack are the way to be fostered by society. So the diet is how I get thin, you know, eating less is how I get thin, saving money is how I become wealthy. Not giving to myself now is how I give to myself in the future. These very ingrained, very ingrained human principles, Saturn principles, are changing up now. But what my point is that that's why we do experience trauma, is because sometimes it takes that for us to just say, you know what, now, sure, I'll have the relationship. I'll spend the money now. I'll do it now. I'll just do it now because and then we have the chemical type of reaction to that in the body. We're like, oh, I'm finally giving to myself. And then we go back into alignment. And through trauma, we sort of recalibrate ourselves with certain universal truths. So that's the only reason that it really happens. And so what you can save yourself a lot of trouble with right now is to give to yourself now. And when I say give to yourself, I don't mean, you know, eat 3 canisters of ice cream by tomorrow. I don't mean spend all of your savings by tomorrow. But what I do mean is that there are certain deprivations, and we talked about this as far back as Cancer season, that just cannot stand any longer. You know, depriving yourself of rest, depriving yourself of cell turnover, depriving yourself of the appearance or the embodiment that you know is more your style and not the style of others. There's no room for deprivation now. Something else that I want to talk about just astrologically for this month is Mars retrograde as well. I may make a specific video on that. It will just depend on how the other content is coming along. But yes, always have the subscribe button hit with the bell notifications turned on so that you will be alerted if a Mars retrograde video does surface. But this is really important as well, and this is something that we have to be prepared for. I'll just touch on it briefly. Mars retrograde in Aries is not a great welcome force right now. It is going to retrograde in such a perfect way that it becomes exactly quincunx to the Sun in Virgo. So yeah, that does look like frustration to me for quite a few people, and it looks like we need to be ready for it. It looks like we need, and September 9th also is the day that it goes retrograde. So by September 9th, we want to really feel like we've done the output. Okay, we have the exercise regimen, we have the things that we needed to get paid, or the things that we needed to get done, or the things that we needed to moved into and pioneered. Because when Mars goes retrograde in Aries, it is non-starting a lot of the time. It can be a bit lazy, it can be a bit procrastination oriented, so we have to be prepared for that. We need to know what our schedule looks like, and we need to be prepared to follow through. Also, more than anything, we have to have impulses curbed and ready to be worked with. So yeah, contrarily to what I've just talked about with deprivation, a lot of us do need to put the credit cards away. A lot of us need to set a very sound and secure budget for this oncoming month. And because we can impulse buy really easily, or we can also, so I'm going to touch on this and then we'll get more positive, but I would really look out for self-sabotage, and some people, I say self-sabotage once in the comment section, supposedly like, I don't want you to hear you talk about that concept, and I understand, but the Mars retrograde in quincunx to the Sun in Virgo to me looks like self-sabotage, and that looks like a contentious relationship with the self, and a contentious relationship also with what we are doing to make money, or what we are doing to further our own vitality or further our own personal progression. It can look like that, or it can look like a complete summation of the problem areas, to the extent that we can like go into an Excel document and list out everything that's wrong, understand all of the false impulses or false sense of reward, and fix it. There's a great ability to fix it, but it does not come just naturally, really. And what a great time to solve themes of frustration and like anger management, okay? Finding new principles to manage your impulses, to manage your emotions, to manage your day, as that feels like the only way that Sun in Virgo quincunx Mars retrograde in Aries can get through, is just by having patience. Okay, what an incredible time to develop patience, to develop an understanding that sometimes things get stretched out, or things get delayed, or don't evolve the way that we expected for a reason, okay? And the people who win right now with that transit are also the people who can just accept the current context, people who are happy with their relationship status, people who are okay with their physical embodiment right now are the people who do the best, okay? Just finding satisfaction with the current context is best. And you know, everything in astrology makes sense. This is what I love about astrology, is because there is a perfect order, there is a perfect, explicable, explainable method to why everything happens. And it makes sense to me that right before we have Jupiter going direct, right before we have Saturn going direct, and soon Pluto direct, ending that triple retrograde conjunction, it would make sense to me that Mars would go retrograde and call our impulses into question. Calling all of humanity's impulses into question, calling our egos into question. It makes perfect sense to me. And the sun in Virgo is a wonderful force within this, because for example, if the sun were in Libra, or if the sun were in Cancer, or if the sun were to hit Mars in a cardinal way, I think that it would just be an expansion of the ego, or an expansion of the impulse, or a convincing that this is right, or that these egos are right, or that these impulses are right. But no, it quincunxes it. And that makes sense to me, because the sun in Virgo is really going to analyze and think about the logistics and think about the reality of how these impulses impact us, or how these ideas really shape us. It's not going to naturally just fall into place. It calls it into question instead. And it's perfect. It is the perfect energy for us to exit the Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto retrograde conjunction with, because there are things that need to be discerned with that. We have to come out of this transit and understand that some of us have developed a pretty nasty ego. Understand that maybe some people around us just cannot really encourage our lives in a way that is not proportionate to their own egos, or proportionate to their own impulses. And the sun in Virgo is the perfect sort of investigative and logistical, neutral-minded energy to accept one way or the other. It doesn't have to convince Virgo energy doesn't have to convince itself of anything. It doesn't have to sell itself anything. It just knows the answer to the equation. It solves the formula. It's a Mercury sign, you know, and we have Mercury really healthily placed and moving really healthily, thank God, during this. You know, this isn't a time of a Mercury retrograde right now. So actually the collective consciousness, the collective mind is going to be working really well. Our own minds should be working really well. I feel a lot of precision. I feel a lot of great capability to solve problems, but it's really important that your need for things, your desire for people, your, again, Mars retrograde in Aries, your lower based instincts, that these things are not eclipsing the logical mind. The logical mind's very well placed right now. We're fine there. If we can tap into that more, allow that to encapsulate more of our interior space, I really think that we can only be victorious. But I thought that I would mention Mars retrograde as well, starting on September 9th, to understand that September 9th and forward, we're going to actually move into a, what would I call it? This is a sort of redefinition zone until Mars goes direct again, where we come out. And it's interesting, Mars is going to be retrograde, obviously, for the entire time. I think, actually, that this Capricorn stellium remains. Isn't that funny? Let me find a date for you guys. Yes, it's looking like Mars is retrograde until November 14th. So September 9th until November 14th. And I think that that is a very funny date, actually. It's an interesting period of time. That time of mid-November is going to be something else. Anyway, we'll talk about that when we get there. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. But yeah, Pluto will be direct also by then. So during this entire time that the triple retrograde conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn go direct, we will have Mars retrograde. And this is just, it could not be more perfect, because every impulse, every ego, every desire, every need will be called into question as we transition from that retrograde 10th house energy of Capricorn into the direct, healthy energy of it. This, and maybe I'll talk about this in another video, we are really going a bit over time here, but what I will say is that there are still healthy things to get from this triple conjunction when it goes direct. We will have it all direct throughout November and December, okay? Only 2 months. Only 2 months to have all of those 3 planets direct and healthily placed in Capricorn. And Mars will be retrograde, so it will really question our impulses and hopefully eclipse the impulses just a little bit so that we can logically understand the scope of the power, self-empowerment, and volition that has grown in all of us and stands to grow quite a lot through this Virgo season. So anyway, everyone, that's feeling like a natural place to conclude this video. I'm just trying to think, is there anything else that I wanted to mention? Just take it step by step this month. This is not a time of like grand changes, grand transformations. As you adapt bit by bit, you will reclaim your own essence, but it's not about going from point 0 to point 1,000 in the scope of a few hours. It's not about impulsively maneuvering this or signing on for something that you have no context with. We are still contextual, but it is absolutely about maybe waking up 15 minutes earlier every day, incorporating healthy meals. Okay, simple things. Virgo season is very simple. And I will touch on that for just a second here because this is important. The triple retrograde Capricorn conjunction will lead you to believe that things have to be very grand. Things have to be very explosive. Things have to be very noble as well, and very class-oriented for some people too. It is not really there. The Virgo is much more mundane. Okay, are your shoes comfortable, you know, and also the style that you like? Are your clothes fitting you properly? Are the materials of your clothes something that agree with you, you know? Is the texture of the food that you're eating really neurologically reconnecting your body? This is an interesting thing. There's been a lot of studies about the texture of food and how that can actually impact like the health of the neurological systems in the brain. There's something about food texture that actually, sometimes even more than nutrition, can have an impact on the health of the body. And I've been researching into that. But this is just an example, okay, of what Virgo season is about. It's not even as much about the nutrient as it is about the texture, or it is about the small details of things. As we all know, Virgo is the most detail-oriented sign of the zodiac. And of course, it's also about health and making sure that every moment of your day is contributing to your own health in a positive and profound way. Okay, great opportunity for psychic expansion just through the minute, mundane aspects of life. The last opportunity this year for it as well, because Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Capricorn are going to be much less minute and much less mundane. We are going to really start to tower and to ascend like on an elevator, okay? Getting to really high heights as we have direct Capricorn energy, direct apex 10th house energy with very mature signs. This is very towering energy that we move into, but not now. So let September be small, minute, mundane, easy, momentous as well, but just connected to the smallest ideas possible and effective, okay? Effective. Affecting the changes that are needed, paying the debts that are needed, representing yourself in the most appropriate way. So I was talking, I don't remember if this was in a Patreon content or to a client or a friend or what, but I was talking about, so we have sort of a triangle or a triad of needs right now, and this was along the lines of who am I, where am I, and what do I represent? These are 3 very important things to get clear during Virgo season. Who am I? Where am I? What do I represent? How am I showing myself? Because as we move through the 6th house, okay, Virgo rules the 6th house, we start to emerge. We rise past the horizon. So yes, sometimes there can be a discrepancy between who I am and what I represent. You know, we need to start to get those things in line. We need to start making things congruent. We need to start making things match, you know, like a math formula. So with that in mind, everyone, thank you so much for checking out this video. September is always a magical time. It is a very spiritual month, for me at least. everybody has their months that are most hard-hitting spiritually for them, but September is definitely one of those for me. So let me know if it is also one of those for you in the comments below. Let me know how you're feeling in the comments below and what you think of these transits and these experiences. And otherwise, yeah, I'm putting all the September readings on Patreon. And if you haven't gotten a Patreon subscription, I would definitely recommend it. I do tea chats every Saturday, and you get the readings early and ad-free and extended counterparts. And it's a great value. And I'm also on social media, Twitter, Instagram. It is all linked below. And without further ado, thank you guys so much for checking this video out on YouTube. If you're new, hit that subscribe button. It is a great way to support the channel. And I will be talking to you soon. Much love. Enjoy Virgo season. Bye.